वैष्णवांश्च श्रीरूपं साग्रजातं सहगना रघुनाथान्वितं त्वं सजीवम्
Pranav Prabhu, are you ready?
I am ready. Yes, so I am ready, Prabhu.
Yes. Yes. Hare Krishna. Dandavat Pranam to all the devotees. Dandavat Pranam to Prabhuji. So we welcome once again Kalacakra Krsna Prabhuji for our evening Srimad Bhagavatam reading session. Prabhuji has been very kind enough to already given 2 sessions in the past on why to study Srimad Bhagavatam, and today Prabhuji is going to guide us on how to study Srimad Bhagavatam. So we welcome Prabhuji wholeheartedly by 3 times chanting Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol.
Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol.
Thank you so much, Prabhuji.
Hari Bol.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, Dandavat Pranam.
Hare Krishna Prabhu, Dandavat Pranam. So nice to see you. Hare Krishna. I am so happy to see you all. Thank you. Thank you, Madhurendra Prabhu.
Hari Bol Prabhuji.
Thank you. I was waiting to come to Chennai, you know. I was traveling so much.
Yes,
The
Prabhuji.
network was not very good. So I was really looking forward to reaching Chennai and connecting back with you all. So such a wonderful group you have, you know, so focused and dedicated. And yeah, I wish I can take all your association today. Krishna Samavada.
Now we have become truly wonderful.
We also welcome Janwa Priya Mataji. She's there with us for the first time, and she's a very good wife of His Grace Vamsidhar Prabhu. So Mataji is
from
also
Pune,
kind enough
right?
to attend today. No, from New Bombay, Belapur.
Oh,
Vamsidhar
Belapur.
Prabhu's-
Okay. I'm sorry. There's one more Janasri Mataji there. Yeah. Hare Krishna Mataji.
Thank you, Mataji.
My humble obeisances to you.
So, Hare Krishna, maybe we can start now, Prabhu.
Yes, Prabhu. Thank you, Prabhu.
Session is yours.
Prabhu, Mataji, I will just do a quick short Mangalacharan and we can start off. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Vasudevaya.
Om Bhagavate
Namo
Vasudevaya.
Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Satyanarayan Shiva Narotamam Devim Saraswati Vyasam Sojam Virayet Nashtaprayasha Bhadreshu Nityam Bhagavad Sevaya Bhagavate Naistiki Om Shantigrandasya Jnananjana Shlakaya Chakshurunmilitamena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Mukham Karoti Vachalam Pangam Namrete Girivatrapatana Hamante Shri Jinatarinam Shri Paramananda Madhavam Shri Chaitanya Vishwaram Shri Mati Swami Amen. Srimad Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhu. Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pacharani Vishesha. Hare Krishna Prabhu's Mataji, thank you once again for this wonderful opportunity to connect with you all. I'm really excited to be in your wonderful association. So what we will do, I think I've been given a co-host, right? So it'd be good to start off with the presentation. Just to give a quick recap, since we have about 15 days or so gap between our sessions. So what we originally started off with was why to study Srimad Bhagavatam and how to study Srimad Bhagavatam. And what we ended up doing was that we did the why to study part of it in the first session. We couldn't cover all the part of it, all the content of our why to study and how to study the same session. So the next session, we took to the how to study Srimad Bhagavatam. But even in that how to study, there were 2 parts to it. One was the mood and the other is the method. So we could only cover, at least I would say 60% of the mood part of it. And then we were left with the method part of it, and some, of course, little bit left out points from the mood, how to develop the mood to eagerly, humbly, gratitude approach Srimad Bhagavatam. So let's proceed quickly with that without spending much time on. That's a quick short recap. Let me give the share now. I hope you're able to see my screen. Are you able to see my screen? You're seeing the screen with an empty slide.
Hare Krishna. Yes, Prabhu. Visible now.
So, this from the mood part of it, there is something which is very, very important for us to understand, because if with Srila Prabhupada, the Bhagavatam is, Prabhupada has given us Bhagavatam in such a pure state that his austerity, his obedience and surrender to his 100% surrender to the instructions of a spiritual master, his determination to wade through all the obstacles that came on his way. It's all really amazing that we're so glad that we have such an acharya so immediately in our life. Now we have been able to, if not personally see him face to face, but at least we are able to hear him, see him in the videos and and also associate with him through his sincere disciples and followers, right? So it is very important for us to, my spiritual master always told us that you should know why you are studying Bhagavatam. That's what some of the points which we covered already. And while we are studying, the mood of Bhagavatam is not that I want to have some name and fame, followers, some glories or whatever. All these things are actually very material, and it contaminates or completely destroys the real sweetness or the nectarian taste of Srimad Bhagavatam. So I just have a few points which I would like to share with you all, and maybe each one of us can take turns to read them, because it doesn't make much sense if I just keep reading them. So it'd be good for each one of us to read through that. Anyone would like to volunteer to read this first, this particular small points? These are some of the important points which I learned from my spiritual master, so as Mahavishnu Goswami. So he gave us this, some of these important tips to develop that the right mood to approach Srimad Bhagavatam and appreciate Srimad Bhagavatam. Anybody?
Yeah, can I read?
Please, Prabhu.
Yeah. We can take up this process only if Krishna gives his sanction for us. When Krishna is extra merciful, he drags us and forces us to hear about him. We are all waiting for his mercy. To attract his mercy, we must all consistently try to read Srimad Bhagavatam and Srimad Bhagavad Gita. This is the real mercy of Krishna. Only people who are selected by Krishna can do these things. Apart from this knowledge, nothing exists. If something is not there in Srimad Bhagavatam, that is all mental concoction. Hence, bury your hands in Bhagavatam. Be selected by Krishna. It is in your hands. When we chant his names, we are selected by him. He selects us and gives us the appointment. Our special appointment is to be with Srimad Bhagavatam and Srimad Bhagavad Gita. Please don't miss the special appointment with the Supreme Specialist. Thank you.
Thank you, Prabhu. It was just hence bury your heads in Bhagavatam. So that's a small thing that. See, this word conscientiously is a very interesting word. Almost all of you know this word, right? Conscientiously means carefully, meticulously, scrupulously. There are so many, and honestly. We are conscientious, like we are aware that why we are approaching Bhagavatam and Bhagavad Gita. And this is the way to attract Krishna's mercy, burying our heads in Srimad Bhagavatam. This is burying our heads actually means when we actually study, we should not be thinking about anything else. Just like the ostrich buries its heads inside the mud. it doesn't see anything outside, right? So that is a very important point. And the appointment, these are the appointments with Krishna, this process that we are being given by so kindly by Srila Prabhupada and our acaryas. So thank you for reading that. We'll have to go it quickly. In the longer session, I tend to go a little bit more deeper into this, but since we have a short time, we will quickly go through this. Someone would like to read this one, please?
Can I read, Prabhuji?
Yes, yes, Mataji.
Hare Krishna ji. Thank you, Prabhuji. Why are we not touching Bhagavad Gita? Why are we not touching Bhagavatam? Such a treasure of transcendental literature is at our disposal. Fortunately, Prabhupada has made it so very clear with his writing. Why are we delaying? I don't understand. The delay is dangerous, and not only dangerous, but it is really killing us. It's like a suicide. We have come into this devotional existence. So much treasure is there at our disposal, and we are just going away from it. And again, we are going to the rut that is ultimately cycle of birth, death, disease, and unlimited. Yes, sorry, Prabhuji. Unlimited cycle of birth, death, disease, and old age. Thank you, Ji. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Mataji. Thank you. This this delay is dangerous, because one thing that I have been seeing is just personally also I'm experiencing that, in 10 years, 15 years ago, all of us are much younger. And I was also, when we are young, we don't realize that we are getting old. But when we are old, how much ever we try, we can't become young again. So the delay in taking up, the biggest challenge with the old age is that the senses, all our senses and limbs does not act as per our wish. So we have to go with whatever the material world is, the limitations the material world is giving us. Who knows, we may lose our hearing capacity, we may lose our seeing capacity. Imagine at that time, how much ever we cry or beat our head against the wall, we won't be able to read through these glorious scriptures of Srila Prabhupada. So the delay that we are doing is every moment that we delay is actually, we are losing the time that is that can be utilized very nicely in absorbing ourselves in Srila Prabhupada's books. That is why it is really dangerous. It kills us. Because it's not only about that in my old age I will not be able to study Bhagavatam or absorb myself in Bhagavatam, but when my senses are hale and healthy, when senses are sound, at that time I am not utilizing it in relation Srila Prabhupada's Shastras, then I will be more and more get caught up in the gunas, that it will lead to less and less chance for us to study Prabhupada's books. Even if you get a chance, forcefully, we will get a chance in the future when we get even more older. Even if Krishna gives us a chance, we cannot really enjoy at that point. Enjoy in the sense we cannot really fully comprehend, because memory will go for a toss. My senses will not work. So many challenges are there, and old does not mean that it's another 20. Always we have the psychology of saying, oh, another 20 more years to go, another 30 more years to go. But old age is old age. Anywhere time where we cannot do our even day-to-day activities on our own, it is old age. Slowly it is creeping into us, and it is without imperceptibly, Adyakrama Davignadaha Kalaha Paramavadustaraha, as Vidura is telling to Dhritarashtra. Imperceptibly unsurpassable time overcomes us, right? So this is a warning that Maharaj was telling us. Let's quickly go to the next one. Can somebody read this shorter one?
Read, Prabhuji.
Yes, Prabhu.
While contemplating on the words of Bhagavatam, you develop attachment for Bhagavatam as you continuously contemplate on how to put Bhagavatam into practice. Krishna will reveal it to you.
So this is the secret of, people always ask how to put Bhagavatam into practice. The most important thing is the vicharana paro. It's a vichar, the vichar we do, the contemplation that we do. So Vicharana Paro is very, very important, contemplating. Constant contemplation on how to put into practice itself will give us Krishna will give us the ideas how to put into practice. So let's go to the last one, the last but not the least, more very important. Anybody?
Hare Krishna, Maharaj Prabhu.
Yes, Prabhuji, please.
Thank you very much. It does not matter whether you get a chance to preach Bhagavatam or not. That is byproduct, and that is up to Krishna. But what is up to you in your hands is your desire to study Bhagavatam. That is what Krishna wants to see. The more time you put aside for Bhagavatam, the more time Bhagavatam puts aside for you. If you neglect Bhagavatam, then the pages of Bhagavatam will neglect you. The purpose of studying Bhagavatam is to always be chaste to Krishna. So, chastity in devotional service is the key for Bhagavatam. And once we have chastity, then there is automatically attention, and when there is attention, attraction follows. Thank you very much, Prabhu. Hare Krishna.
This is such a beautiful thing. I really like this one. The biggest message, the secret, the secret of success or secret of relationship with Bhagavatam is in this particular quote. Always we look into this think of, when will I get a chance to preach? If I'm asked to give a class, I study. That is where the trick is. Krishna says, you first study, then I will give you a chance to speak, chance to give the class. You first prepare. But what we see is the reverse. When Krishna gives me a chance to speak, I prepare. Which means my study of Srimad Bhagavatam is a fruitive activity. I am doing it based on the chances or the opportunities that Krishna is giving me. And that's how it works for me. Then it is not really chastity. It's fruitive activity, right? So, as Maharaj says here, this is a byproduct, and that is up to Krishna. It's a byproduct. The preaching part is a byproduct. But what is up to us is how our desire to study Srimad Bhagavatam, irrespective of whether we are getting a chance to speak or not, our desire to study Srimad Bhagavatam, no matter what is the time, whatever is the situation is, wherever we are, that desire is what Krishna wants to see. And the beautiful point is the purpose of studying Srimad Bhagavatam is to always be chaste to Krishna. That chastity is a very, very important part. Krishna wants to see that happen. Because then we can go to so many other shastras, so many other devatas, or so many other types of people like scientists, philosophers, whoever we may be attracted to. That is not chastity. Chastity means Bhagavatam should be given the highest respect. There is no compromise there. Asama Urdhva. There is no one equal to him or greater than him. So everybody else is given the next importance. And when the chastity is there, automatically there is attention and attraction. First attention, then attraction automatically follows. From mati, attention means mati. Then the next attraction is Sarati. So as Kriti Maharani prays, both automatically happens because she was very chaste to Krishna's son. She was very chaste in her devotion to him. Chaste means irrespective of whether it is like that Ashlishyava Padratam sloka, right? Irrespective of whatever happens in my life, I am only with Krishna. So yes, Madhuseta Prabhu, any question, Prabhu?
Yes, Prabhu. One small doubt here, Prabhu.
Yes, Prabhu.
When we have discussions on Bhagavatam, topics related to Bhagavatam. So actually, it's like two questions in one. So many times devotees like to focus on the katha. They do not find the actual philosophy behind the katha that attractive. That is one, and many times because of this reason, sometimes devotees want to study something else in more details, like for example the 5th canto of Bhagavatam. So the last part typically comes from has a lot of elements from Garuda Purana. So wants to go there and study there because apparently Bhagavatam has condensed it a bit too much. I want to know more in details. So, Prabhu, how do we understand this? How do we tackle this?
Okay, wonderful question, Prabhu. So the first part is about people getting more into Katha than the actual philosophy, correct?
Yes.
Yeah, so Bhagavatam is being naturally made in the Katha form so that anybody and everybody can take advantage of it. If it was only like the Sutras, it is Vedanta Sutra is already there, the philosophy aspect of it. But then for Kali Yuga, that will not work. We are all Mandaha Sumanda Mate, Mandabhagya, and Upadruta also. So that is why Vasudev himself wrote it in the story form. But having said that, it is not enough for us to, if you only like the story part, I say that I like the story very much, so I'm just hearing. That's good in one way. At least we are not hearing any other stories, content stories, whatever. But Bhagavatam is about practice. Bhagavatam is about practice, and through practice you relish it. Hearing also we relish, but even more if you can relish when you practice. So in order to practice that, we have to extract the practical lessons from any pastimes, whether it is Krishna killing the demons or whether it is Krishna playing with his friends or relating with his parents or Balram. All of anybody for that matter, or any of his other friends like Arjuna, Pandavas, anybody you take, or even the devotees. That is why Bhagavatam is even more tasty because more than Krishna, it is the devotees and the devotional service that is so beautifully narrated all through Bhagavatam. So the idea is to, our aim should be to extract the practical lessons from any leelas or kathas that is there. Otherwise, Bhagavatam will become like a, many times people do only professional katha. Like they talk about this leela, that leela, everything is fine. But then end of it, is there any transformation in the character, transformation of behavior, the behavioral aspect? Or is there any improvement in the behavior in us? That is what Krishna wants to see, and Guru wants to see, Guru Maharaj wants to see. And that is where you are raised a very, very important point, Prabhu, that it is very important to get into the lessons of it. There are some who will be more interested in the philosophical aspect of it, and for which Bhagavatam gives the required the food for thought. But having said that, both should go hand in hand, because Krishna's transcendental pastimes are actually transcendental. That's what's called transcendental pastimes. So Janma Karma Chame Divyam Yevam Yo Vetti Tattvataha. This word is very important. And Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, Janma Karma Chame Divyam, it is all transcendental. Yevam Yo Vetti Tattvataha means one who knows it as it is. For him, there is no birth again, correct? So that in order to get the Veti Tattvataha exactly as it is, we need to study deeper and try to extract the lessons out of it. Otherwise, we will be hovering only on the lila part of it, which can lead to, sometimes sahaja mentality, which Prabhupada always warned us against. I hope that helps, because Bhagavatam means behavior. That's why both are B, Bhagavad Gita is also B. So when we are really taking the essence from the every chapter, every pastime, then we become honey bee. So that is also B, So all the B put together it comes. So behavioral aspects is very important. We touched upon it so nicely. And the second part of it is the how to study the fifth canto parts, and especially we were talking about the hellish planet description, Bhagavatam, for which people want to go to Garuda Puran. My light-hearted answer would be to Prabhu that one thing is, if we are planning to go to Golok Vrindavan anyway, there is not really any reason for us to understand try to understand the hellish planets really. No need to get too deeper into it. So even if you get to know from Garuda Puran, anyway, you're not going to go there. So what's the point in knowing more about it? So, even otherwise also, if you want to know about it, Prabhu, it's not needed to get into the other scriptures, because what is there in Bhagavatam is sufficient in itself. The reason it is given in concisely, because it just wants to warn us, like, don't go that area. It's really difficult there. Just go straight. So for us, we just while going, we just watch. Okay, or you are driving in the highway, you just know that okay, this is going that direction. Hell for that direction. So we only know that I'm not going to go to hell. So I just keep going straight in my highway. I know that that way is hell. I know that this way is Atala, this is with Sutara, or the Atal Loka or whatever, So I just see the direction and just take it that way. So those things are like that, Prabhu. But as we go along now, it will be very nice to focus on the cream aspect of Bhagavatam, Prabhu, as you rightly brought the focus on those two aspects.
Thank you very much, Prabhu.
The more as we go into the methods of study, we will get into a little bit more items in there which will help us understand some of the things. It's not all, it's not exhaustive in any way, but it is just some of the points at least I will go through. Now that we have covered this part, let's get into the study methods overview quickly. There are about 3 major types that we classify it as. One is the recitation aspect of it. Why recitation is very important? Because the Sanskrit shlokas actually, when you recite them, it has a very transcendental effect on our mind, body, soul, everything. Even without knowing it, we can still learn it. Prabhupada many times insisted this that we should recite the shlokas. I have a few quotes which I can share it with you offline. So we have to do it with proper pronunciation and mood. That is, as we talked about the mood of studying Bhagavatam. Same way recite it. Why? Because the shlokas are actually non-different from Krishna. They are Krishna himself present in the Shabda Rupa. Nabolingam, Bhutam, Nabolingam, Alingam. He is not seen in a personal form, but he is in the sound form, which is present in it. So, in order to get the translate touch of Srimad Bhagavatam in the form of the prayers or the we don't have to do all if you don't have time. We can at least take specific sections like prayers or some philosophical discussions, etc. Try to keep reciting them on a daily basis. Then eventually we'll learn it by heart, and be really a wonderful way to relish Bhagavatam. So that is the first part. The second part is the running reading. This we normally recommend for those who have never read Bhagavatam and they are the first timers. So, because first timers, they generally look into the huge set of books and say, "Oh my God, how am I going to finish them all?" So then they get really like it's like a culture shock for them or the shock for them to is it something I'm getting into, dangerous subject matter that I'm getting into. So in order to give them that lighter introduction, we recommend for devotees to read, say, like for example, 1 chapter a day. Just maybe they can read only the translation if they don't know how to recite the verses, or they can read one verse and the translation like that. These are the 2 types of the regular running readings where you can do on a chapter by chapter basis. It probably takes about 30-40 minutes for the verse and translation put together. And if you can note down some of these points, like that. And then the next one is reading the verse to purport in sequence. Like you keep reading like 5 pages, 10 pages a day, like that. Don't leave anything, but just read in a sequence. But don't spend too much time on the purports as you go along. Because you get stuck in it, then that is a different thing. So this is all 3 things classified under running reading. Now the deep study is a different ball game altogether, because once you do the running reading, you can't do the running reading all our life. Like say the one which I told about every day one chapter. There are total 335 chapters in Bhagavatam. Every day you do one chapter, in 11 months you can complete 1 round of Bhagavatam running reading. And deep study is something where you go slower and deeper. So there it will take more time to cover. There you have different types, So when you go through that, it takes longer time. So sometimes you may feel like, oh, it's not moving at all, right? So in order to give us some courage, or keep us moving, basically. So this running reading definitely helps, especially when you note down points. And the other important thing that you gain from running reading is that when you read the translation, you'll get the complete storyline, or how one shloka is connected with the next shloka, group of shlokas are connected with each other, etc. So this is something which normally we recommend for those who are saying, I'm not an avid reader, I'm a first timer, how can I start? But I really want to start. Is my video stopped? I'm sorry, I think for some reason it is getting stopped and so on. I hope it is showing, Prabhu.
It's showing now. It's clear.
I don't know why it stops. Maybe it's a problem with my computer. For some reason it just stopped. Just remind me if it stops once again.
It's true.
Okay. So this is the recitation running reading part. And the deep study, I will go into them in a little bit briefly. See, deep study is like people start doing like from the beginning, like 2-3 verses a day, 5 verses a day, like that they keep covering. Every day without fail, we have to do all these things. The consistency and regularity is very, very important. And not getting into a ritualistic mode. These two things are very important. I've covered these in a deeper thing, but today it's not possible to cover all of them. Like each one of them, I think pros and cons, precautions, etc. I've covered for each one of them. In the thing, maybe when we have the Adhyatma Deepam sessions, we'll probably get into this part of it. So first is verse by verse and sequence. Next is concept-wise study. Concept-wise is like, we have the karma, we have modes of material nature, we have humility, we have gratitude. We just take concept and then we cover breadth-wise across the Bhagavatam. Take few examples, and then try to get into the individual specialities, the uniqueness of each of those pastimes. So that is one part. And the next is, of course, preparing for the class. It is where you'll have to study on your own, really. And then there some important tips are there how to prepare for the class. That is we can't do it as a group. Preparing for the class is like between us and Krishna only. That's all. If we are given a verse to speak, or we are given some particular topic to speak, we'll have to dive deeper and try to refer, and all those kind of things are there. Again, the depth of it, we'll cover it as in the larger scope of discussion. And then the next type is Q&A based study. This is where I prepared some demos also. Like there will be questions and answers in Bhagavatam itself. Like Vidurava asks questions and Maitreya answers. Or Yudhishthira Maharaj asks, Narad Muni answers. Or say Brahma asks, Krishna answers. Narad Muni asks, Brahma answers. Vyasadeva asks, Narad Muni answers. There is so many question answer kind of a dialogue is there. That itself is a big study by itself. You collect all the questions and try to find out the answers. They'll ask questions like, how does time work? How is soul and material body related to each other? These are normal questions which people ask us in our teaching, when we go for teaching, or even for ourselves. There are so many unanswered questions which we can get them clear. Okay, so this is about the question and answer based study. And the next is episode wise. So episode is like Ambarish Maharaj episode, Prahlad Maharaj, Dhruva Maharaj, etc. Episode wise you collect and you start getting deeper into the shlokas, try to understand the connecting aspects and so on. And finally the group study. This group study is nothing but the same, these 4 types, except preparing for the class for which you will have to do it on your own. It's always better to do having lonely time with Krishna to prepare for the class. But rest of these things we can always do group study. Verse by verse and sequence, concept wise, question answer based study, episode wise, group study, episode wise. These 4 items you can always do in a group study. It varies according to the group's dynamics or the type of things that we do in deep study. You can give assignments Like say, if you take a concept-wise thing, then you can give assignments to different people. Like why karma is bothering us, what is the effect of karma, how to avoid karma, all these kind of different questions or points you take and you ask them to get the answers from Bhagavatam. So these are all wonderful ways of studying Srimad Bhagavatam. You know, that especially the deep study requires lots of energy and effort. Any questions so far? Okay, there are not much questions, and we proceed. You can always ask questions anytime. You can interrupt me. No need to wait for me to. Wait. So let me get to the other part of it, where is the deep study, where how we can do. For all these things, we have demo, you know. So, but at least for some, we will. So this is again, we are coming to the extension of the methods part with the mix of mood in it. You know, the mood is like what is the mood, right mood, and what are the things which we should avoid, right? You remember these things in two different acronyms. One is do, means there are three things you should remember: P, H, and D.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Yes, Prabhu.
Yeah, Prabhuji, you said there's the first mode of study, if ritualistic study. If somebody is doing ritualistic study without much faith in Bhagavatam, so is it will considered like a aparad if he or she is don't believing what he is reading?
Well, Prabhu, the fact that they are reading itself means that they have some tinge of belief, right? Otherwise, why would they spend time on it?
Yeah, just
may not
because
have the
it is
same- Yeah,
it is recommended that it's you should read. They are reading it like ritualistic non-stop.
Yeah, that is true, Prabhu. It's very true. You touched on a very important point that, you know, the ritualistic part, we covered that in one slide. We tend to be too ritualistic in Srimad Bhagavatam, but actually Bhagavatam is very simple. It doesn't have any rules and regulations as we have in terms of like deity worship. This is also deity worship. Prabhupada's, you know, it's like the Archa Vigraha and Charcha Vigraha, they call it. It's like, you know, it's the literally incarnation, deity form of Krishna. But depending on which state they are in, Prabhu, if they are like the beginners, then we have to give them some little leeway, like how Prabhupada gave us all that leeway. And if they are quite already into the, you know, for years they are there and they have not developed a taste, then there is something that which need to be done. Seriously, that needs, I mean, they have to take it seriously. So somebody has to help, you know, who is serious about it. We can tell them, just, you know, try to make a little bit more. I think somebody put a little bit more intention into it. I think somebody said this about it's on the Jananand Maharaj said this very nicely. I heard that you know, there's only three letters that separates between spiritual and ritual. SPI. You know? So that is the difference between the word spiritual and ritual. And that SPI for us, it means Srila Prabhupada's instructions. So if you follow Srila Prabhupada's instructions nicely, then the ritual will automatically become spiritual. Prabhupada gave us all the time and the margin, you know, for us to make some little bit adjustments here and there, because we are all still in the modes. So Maharaj, all our Maharajas and Prabhupada, they all have given that you know, that required concession. But having said that, we should not take advantage of the concession, as you rightly said. So there should be a balance depending on which part of the journey we are in.
Okay, Prabhuji. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for the nice question. So we'll proceed here. So this, you know, we always say, you know, Bhagavatam is PhD in spiritual subject. I think somebody says, yes, Anumataji.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna. Prabhuji, you said Bhagavatam. Sorry, Bhagavatam is about behavior, that you can see if there is a change in the behavior, that means something is working. Prabhuji, at times there are there are changes that sometimes we feel that are in their behavior, but seems like they are temporary. In the sense that some situation comes that you don't want to revert, but there is a back and forth mind in the battle in the mind that you want to revert back to the old behavior, but then you hold. So then what is that? The behavior didn't change properly. It seems like it's in the middle somewhere that it's trying to go back and forth.
True. I mean, we all have experienced that, isn't it, Mataji? I mean, we have loads of experience of that. See, I see it this way, Mataji. Whenever somebody comes with that kind of, it's discouraging, definitely, because we all want to become pure devotees, isn't it? But we are still struggling to be even devotees. So, so the real aspect that I see here is like, what my spiritual master always told me is that be always courageous and be on the positive side. Never get stuck into the negative side of, oh, I'm not able to get this thing, I'm not able to get that, I'm not able to get out of the gunas, etc., etc. Maharaj used to say something very interesting that if you are able to follow for the temporary period, maybe some few moments or an hour or two, maybe you are under sattvic mode or whatever, able to face the onset of guna and come out successfully in the 2 hours, 3 hours. Then be happy that for those 2-3 hours you are really in genuine devotee.
Yes.
That is the initial ingredient that we should put in. Otherwise, oh, I am not able to become 24-hour devotee. I'm not, even that remaining hours that we had, that also we lose.
Yes, that's
So
true.
always be more enthusiastic. Utsaha, nishchaya, dhairya. That part is very important, especially cheerfulness. It's a monopoly of devotees. Even among devotees, cheerfulness is monopoly of those who are relishing Srimad Bhagavatam and the holy names. So even if it is slightly little bit here and there, it's okay. Still we are able to. You have to build up on what is already there, the capital that we have, isn't it? So the temporary nature of it is definitely because we are getting caught in the moods. Our sangha is problem. Maybe we are associating with some, some mundane sangha, not even non-devotees. Even among devotees, we have a mundane relationships many times. We expect and we have so many other, misunderstandings and so on and so forth. But then one thing that we have to be always convinced is that Avashya Rakshibhe Krishna Vishwasapala. Krishna will definitely protect us and take us to the topmost level, and we just have to keep the faith in him. Yes, at present it's going a little slow, but then definitely there will be a time suddenly things we will start doing it in a very intensely and very nicely. That helps, Mataji.
Yes, thank you so much, Prabhuji. That really did.
And one other important thing is always, that is why Bhagavatam always insists that, take association of like-minded devotees. That helps. Tad vayasam tirtam, nayatra hamsa niravanti shiksha. When you take the association of hamsas, the hamsa-like devotees, then naturally the devotee association will help us move forward. It relish Bhagavatam and everything very nice. All parts of devotional service very nice.
Yes, thank you so much, Prabhuji.
Thank you, Mataji.
Thank you, Ji. Hare Krishna.
Thank you. Very nice questions. I'm really, I really love these questions that all of you are asking, Prabhuji. So let's quickly go into this thing that there are two things like do's and don'ts. We always say Bhagavatam is PhD. So, okay, my went off. I don't know for a little, whatever reason, it's not starting the video. So integrated camera, OBS virtual camera. It says two things. I don't know what it means. Just stopped working. My computer misbehaves. Sorry about that. No problem. But anyway, my thing will be very small because I think the screen share is the one that goes to occupy more, right? So that's more important. Let's cover what's there on the screen. So we do PhD, right? We have to do PhD study of Bhagavatam. So let's see what is PhD means. P actually means we have to be peaceful, patient and prayerful. Slow and steady wins the race. We have to be really patient, nishchayat, dhairyat, and it will be peaceful also, shanta, and prayerful. We be grateful, right? So these are the three things. Yeah, maybe 5-10 minutes. Yes, thank you, Anandaram Prabhu. Maybe I will see how things go depending on the questions. So this piece, it talks about 3 P's, that is patience, peaceful, and prayerful. Be slow and steady in our this thing, but steady. Be slow but steady. Don't try to rush through and all kinds of stuff like that. Then the H actually means humble and submissive. We have to be humble when we approach Srimad Bhagavatam. We can't go with the idea that today I will master this verse. No. Unless and until Krishna allows us to touch Bhagavatam, we can't even touch. So we have to go with the prayerful mode and be humble and submissive in our approach to Srimad Bhagavatam. And we are always servants. We are not masters of Bhagavatam. So the next thing is D, is determination and dedication. This is a very important thing, the sankalpa that we take to finish the quota for the day, whether it is 1 verse, you keep it as a regular study, 2 verses you keep, or 1 chapter you keep, whatever is the quota that you keep for the day, at any cost, make sure that you have to complete it. Like say, for example, I have this thing of habit of reading 1 chapter a day. Today, my whole day was like swamped with so much work that I couldn't get even a few minutes break to get into my today's chapter. And now we have our session. And I can't say that, oh, now I'm feeling very tired, let me do it tomorrow. And at one time you miss the point to take advantage of that one time. And then keep telling you, once already you missed it. It's okay, you miss one more time. That is why this determination, dedication is very important to overcome the vagaries of the mind. So this PhD, remember what we have to do to the mood basically to study Shiva. Yes, Archana Mataji.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Dandavat
Yes,
Pranam. So Prabhuji, sometimes when we read the verses, especially the purports, we don't seem to understand, like however much you discuss or what, you don't seem to get convinced. You don't seem to really get into the meaning. And then you feel very disturbed, what do we do in such situations?
You keep it, park it. Don't have to get too much into it when you don't have the necessary the information or the guidance to understand that. So if you can't understand, just read it, because it is still Krishna, right? There are so many things which as in prasadam, we eat a lot of things. Some which we like very much, some items we like very much, so we eat with relish, honor with relish. Some of them we don't really like it. Like say, for example, somebody who doesn't like the bitter gourd sabji is very difficult for him to eat, but then it is kept as prasadam, so you eat it. Maybe you take a little bit, but you still eat it, isn't it? So
yeah, but Prabhuji, at the same time, you feel that others try to convince you, others seem to have understood it, and then you feel all the more disturbed.
Yeah, it is a different people are a different state. Different people are a different state. There are those who like Karela fry so much,
And then these concepts keep on getting repeated, So again, then you get
repetition
stuck.
Repetition means it is very important. Repetition does not mean it's boring. Repetition actually means it's important. 2 people repeat. One is mad person, keeps repeating it all the time. The same thing he will repeat again and again. But he does it without knowing what he is speaking. But the second person who repeats it is the most intelligent person, most advanced learned person. He repeats it because it is very important. And that's why
so when you have not understood, Prabhuji, and these things get repeated, keep on getting repeated, that is time you start feeling frustrated. Why I'm not able to understand this? Why am I getting stuck in this?
Well, I have been reading for many years. I honest with you, when I go through this 9th canto, some of these chapters where the Vamsanucharitam is mentioned, this is the son of this, this is the son of this. I'm honest with you, I don't get anything much from there. Few maybe in some places where the qualities are mentioned, that is fine. But other than that, I don't really get much about who is the son of whom, how does it think. But Only thing that I can tell you in this point, Pataji, is that Chaitanya Prabhu said every word of Bhagavatam is actually Krishna. So some things which you don't understand, still it will be Krishna. So we just have to accept the fact that at present it is not working for me, but it is definitely work one fine day when I am fully submissive.
Okay, Prabhuji. Thank you so much.
Right? It just needs a little bit of patience, and that's why the association Satam Prasangan Mama Viri Sambhito, Bhavanti Krit Karna Rasayana Kataha. When we study in the association of devotees, it gives a totally different meaning, because everybody, Krishna is talking to everybody and Paramatma in their heart. So it really helps us to understand that deeper insight.
Yes, Prabhuji, that really helps. But sometimes, in spite of lot of discussion on this, sometimes you just can't accept that. You don't seem to be getting convinced about it. That is what really makes me.
That's what I'm saying. Don't worry. Don't get frustrated. See, I know in services we tend to get frustrated, but regarding frustration, Srila Prabhupada speaks a very, very beautiful point in one of the shlokas, 3:13:49. Let me try to get it. This shloka is really beautiful. It really made a lot of sense to me when Are you able to see the screen?
Yes, Prabhuji.
So now if you read this purport, it's very interesting.
Should I read?
Yeah, you can read the entire purport, yes. Or translation also. Take just a minute to complete this translation. You can read the translation.
Yeah. Nothing remains unachieved when the Supreme Personality of Godhead is pleased with someone. By transcendental achievement, one understands everything else to be insignificant. One who engages in transcendental loving service is elevated to the highest perfectional stage by the Lord Himself, who is seated in everyone's heart.
This is a very important point that we should notice here, is that Krishna doesn't look at the result, he looks at the endeavor. So the attempt that we put in, like when you say you are frustrated, at that time you are still trying to force your mind that yes, this frustration means mind is telling me, come on, I don't want to read this. It's utter nonsense that you are reading again and again the same point. Das they didn't have anything to do. He spent all his time sitting and writing all these things, and he's wasting our time also. Like this other mind will tell you. But the whole art is to fight against the mind's justifications. And when we really fight with the mind, that's when Krishna will like it. It's not after I win the mind. And nor does he hate us when we lose the mind. He's always giving us opportunity. Now you please read the purport, especially from this point. It is confirmed here in this part is very nice from here on.
It is confirmed herein that a pure devotee who constantly engages in the loving service of the Lord is awarded all knowledge necessary to reach the Supreme Personality of Godhead. For such a devotee, there is nothing valuable to be achieved but the Lord's service. If one serves faithfully, there is no possibility of frustration because the Lord Himself takes charge of the devotee's advancement.
This is the point, Mataji. This is the point. If then you say that I'm not able to understand why it is coming again and again, but still I will read it because it is Krishna. Chaitanya Prabhu says it is Krishna, and I may not be able to appreciate, but I have full faith in the words of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Prabhupada, and my Guru Maharaj. You get what I'm saying?
Yes, yes.
That is when you say, if one serves faithfully, then there is no possibility of frustration. Why? Because Krishna is taking charge of the devotee advancement. See?
Which verse
Krishna
is this, Prabhuji?
3:13:49.
Okay, 3:13:49.
This is why Prabhupada's purports are so transcendental. That questions that you have, the challenges that we have in our mind, for every one of them, Prabhupada has answers in his purports. Just have to find the right one at the right time. That's all. See, this is such a nice verse. We can go further and read the rest of it.
The Lord is seated in everyone's heart, and He knows the devotee's motive and arranges everything achievable. In other words, the pseudo devotee who is anxious to achieve material gains cannot attain the highest perfectional stage because the Lord is in knowledge of his motive.
So this is important. See, our motive, Krishna is constantly watching us. Now, suppose I'm having this session. Krishna will look in the heart, will look in my heart. What is my motive? And suppose we are all attending this, he knows all our motives. So there's no point, trying to convince him that yes, Krishna, I have better motive or no. Krishna knows it even before we can argue or justify it, right? So when we have to watch out, see, this anxious to achieve material gains, no, Mataji. This is not simply just the name, fame, or many wealth, followers, all these things alone. It's in a subtle way. It can work even the simple things like I want to be I want to complete Bhagavatam and be called as at least once I have completed Bhagavatam, like that I should be known as. That seems that can also be thing sometimes. So this anxious to achieve material gains is very important. When we have to watch out that when I am getting frustrated, is there something that I am anxious about in terms of the material gains that I need to get? That there will always be somewhere where it is stuck. It's like the process where something is wrong means where to go and fix it. It's all pretty nicely mechanized by Krishna, right? So this is anxious to achieve material gains, and Lord is in knowledge of his motive. The last line is really nice.
One merely has to become sincere in his purpose, and then the Lord is there to help in every way. So true.
Isn't it? So this is how you just take these few purports, and when you have questions, just read them and just transcendental purports. They will help you.
How do we find these purports, Prabhuji? Like you gave me the right one, but I wouldn't know how to look for this one.
When you keep reading, Krishna will tell you that Dadami Buddhi Yogam Tamas, he says here itself, So when I was really in frustration, this purport helped me. And I was not sure what I am doing, what I have to do. I was reading Bhagavatam. I was frustrated with some services, but I was continuing to read Bhagavatam. I didn't know, because it was knowingly we were getting what do you call? Knowingly we are going to end in a failure. We know that it's going to fail, but still we were doing it. But when I read this purport, I said, why should I bother? Krishna says there is no possibility of frustration because he is taking care of our autism. Let's just do it. And then the end, it happened to be such a nice opportunity. So as you keep reading, Krishna will reveal some of these beautiful purports, which are so practical. As Madhusudana Prabhu also asked just a little while ago, that we are interested in Leela, but what about the transformation in our hearts? And those come by studying such golden purports like this. There are unlimited number of such purports all through. So we just have to focus. Yes, Rahul Prabhu.
Thank you so much.
Prabhuji, this is a little bit out of context. Means frustration may also come like if we reading it like a Leela, means and we are not believing what Bhagavatam is saying and just reading it, means we are not following the instruction of Bhagavatam. and Bhagavatam continuously teaching us, do like this, follow this, and this should be your goal. So it's like we are going in opposite direction, then frustration will also come.
Yeah, obviously, because not only that Leela, studying Leela should, even in the purest form, should not give us frustration. But the problem is not with the Leela, problem is with our mind. It is in the guna. It is stuck in the lower gunas, and that is why mind can't sit with Leela for a long time, sit with Katha for a long time. Why? Because it wants to enjoy the mundane way. But then we keep on constantly giving the mind how should I say this, the food, the transcendental food, and eventually it will become all right. So one merely has to become sincere in his purpose, then Krishna will help in every way. He's just waiting for us to become sincere in our purpose, that's all.
Yes, Prabhu. Oh, thank you.
Thank you, Prabhu. Let me go to the rest of the points here. Now, see, this is about what is the do's, basically, P, H, and D. Now comes the don't. Now, when you are doing PhD, what will be in our mind? Oh, I should never fail. I should never fail. So just read this sense: do PhD, don't fail. Then fail is 4 letters. What is the 4 things that which you need to avoid? Forgiving yourself for not able to study regularly. We always say, oh, it's too late, let me read tomorrow, Krishna knows my problem, and all those kind of things. Never ever forgive yourself. My Guru Maharaj always said one thing: be merciful to everyone except yourself. That is devotional service. So at any cost, make sure that you read for the day. Don't if you are not able to study regularly, anyway, I am doing the other service. But these 2 are important sadhanas: chanting and Bhagavatam, or chanting and reading Prabhupada's books. So those 2 really, they have to be taken care of. Okay, let's move on to the next one. Next is A, it's avoidance. We many times when we read, as I think just a little while ago, I think somebody was asking that we are not able to understand some part of it. So why don't we just skip it over? We don't want to read 5th canto at all because it's full of this description of the structure and all that. But Parishit Maharaj never thought like that. If he thought, he would have gone directly to Krishna Leela. He is already in the line of Krishna devotees, isn't it? So that skip over or the avoiding some of the sections is a very important thing which we should avoid. We should not do. So this is an important point to note. Even when we are not able to understand something, don't skip over. Just read through. It may be mechanical, but just read through. Krishna will at sometimes he will give us the indication, how to understand this. So the next one is I is impudence. Many times what happens is we spend some time in the moment, then we get more familiar, taking for granted. Don't show the necessary respect, etc. So if we don't give the due respect to Srila Prabhupada Swami, then we are doomed. So ensure that is not there. The last one is lazy and lackluster. Don't do it just for ritualistic sake, like we said just now, the rituals. Avoid laziness and procrastination. If this is a beautiful thing, if your mind says we can do it later, then surpass the mind. Do it right away. Let's see what mind is thinking about. Always giving us fake excuses and that. So it's just utter nonsense. So don't just read for the sake of it. Avoid laziness and procrastination. Put the heart into it. So the next point is, the final point is that degree of realization is directly proportional to the degree of respect or reverence we show to the Srila Prabhupada. Any questions, comments here?
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, Dhanot Nam.
Yes.
Prabhuji, so when we are reading the purports of Srila Prabhupada verse by verse in sequence, suppose we want to understand it more in depth. So is it recommended that we refer there are options like Prabhupada's lectures on the same verse,
Yes, Prabhu,
or
that's a very good
some
idea.
other
Yeah.
devotees teaches on those verses. So what do you recommend? Like what should we do it or not do it, and what should be the sequence? Yeah.
Ideally, Prabhu's lectures help. But what happens now, Prabhu, in deep study, for one line, if you want to understand, then it go into the entire lecture, and then it takes a lot of time. So sometimes it can test people, sometimes it can test our patience also. What I would really recommend, my personally, how it works for me, it may or may not work for everyone. What works for me is that I don't go anywhere outside of Prabhupada's book. Even if it is something where Prabhupada has given a lecture, I will keep it for a separate this thing. But I just keep reading in sequence and try to contemplate on this again and again. So in essence, what will happen is if something I cannot understand, then I look into the Bhagavad Gita verse or something that is related to it. I won't go too much into the branches in my thing, because if so many times I've read, then I don't mind refining the thing again and again. Because once you do this running reading, we tend to see that, oh, that I already done once, so no problem, let's just forget about it. That should not be the case. We should read every day regularly, Bhagavad Gita, Bhagavatam, whichever we are taking. So it depends on the comfort level, Prabhu, ultimately, to answer your question. Somebody likes to hear lectures. Maybe you are going for a walk. You study, then you go for a walk, then you put on the lecture on that particular chapter or verse and go for it. That's good enough.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji. So I can understand, like when you are doing studying, preferably maintain continuity of study, and whenever you get that extra time where you can hear on the same subject matter, you can hear side by side at the later point of time. With parallelly, you can do some other.
Exactly, Prabhu. That will help us. Nice. You may be driving the car, you may be walking, whatever. You can put on Prabhupada's lecture, keep hearing. That will help. Or even if you want to hear, say, some other devotees or spiritual masters lecture on that particular verse, do it during the day. They will give some nice perspective also. So in this, one more small things, Prabhu, I will just cover this and then we will be kind of done. These are some of the little tips, 10-point guidelines, Read systematically, not haphazardly. One day here, one day there, one day somewhere else. Don't do that. Then, like, even after doing all that, you will feel like you have not done anything. If you do it systematically in a sequence and complete it, then you will feel like you have taken a full meal kind of thing. So read systematically, just don't read haphazardly. Read the entire chapter, group of related verses, and understand the relationship between the verses. Then read everything in the verse, don't skip anything. Sometimes you say, oh, but word equivalents are not very important. So this is all for this deep study part I'm talking about. So we have to read everything, It's very important. And then read every statement slowly and patiently. Don't rush until you understand the correct one. This is a very important point. Like, when we ask these questions, like why Krishna is doing like this, why Yudhishthira Maharaj is doing like that, what is it that is trying to achieve, and by when it's like these kind of questions, if you ask to Srila Prabhupada's books, then the books will answer. Prabhupada will answer through the books. Okay. And the next thing is introspect. These scriptures are for us to introspect, not for just for us to study and speak some lila and go away. So always first look for ourselves. Don't look for other person. Hey, if I speak this verse, you will become all right. You'll get better like that. No, not like that. So always try to see what message I can get from the person. Then try to picturize the situation mentally. Suppose Kunti Maharani is offering prayers and Krishna is standing in the chariot. You can easily imagine. The Bhagavatam is so beautifully depicted that just by hearing about the Bhagavatam, hearing about the Bhagavatam slokas, we get purified. So that is very important. And then the next is, again, this is the same point which we discussed in the last slide. Don't be too soft or forgiving of yourself. Be hard on yourself and complete the day's quota at any cost. And then this is a very, very important verse. You please note down this verse number and do it offline, to study the purport offline. Depend completely on His mercy. That thing can work without His mercy. It's only His mercy that makes us this part. And then we always have a notebook and a pen, note down the points. We are lazy usually, so we should not be lazy in this regard. Maharaj used to say this thing: devotee without a notebook and a pen is like barber without his knife and scissors. Those are the only two based on which he runs his business. And if he is forgotten that, what will he achieve? So for us also, the behavior, the eagerness to hear Prabhupada, and all those things come by our systematic study, and as we shed out the laziness. So the last point, not the least, don't read to prove some point to someone. Many times you say, "Oh, that devotee, I will have to go and tell him this verse and purport or something." He was asking so many questions to me. He's not believing it. No, don't do all those things. You read to relation associated with Prabhupada Swami and all the qualities of Bhagavatam. Other things will automatically take care. Okay. So I will stop here, Prabhu's Mataji's. It's very important for us to meditate, contemplate on the important thing that which Prabhupada has given us the most significant treasure in all the three worlds. So, any specific questions at this point for reflections? I'm sorry I took some 10-15 minutes extra.
Hare Krishna Prabhu, would you like to ask some question?
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, please accept my humble obeisances. Thank you very much, Prabhu, for a nice explanation. Usually when I read Bhagavatam, I read the sloka, I read the translation, the purport, but I skip the word by word translation. And what do you suggest?
I have some specific slides where you will get it's mind-boggling. Really, you will get really shocked to see how much Prabhupada has given those word for word. Each word for word, you can write a book on them. So I would really kindly request you that if you are doing the deep study, Prabhu, better that you can spend some time on the word for word. You will see that the word for words, the Sanskrit gives a specific perception. The verse, the translation gives a specific perception. Word for word gives a specific perception, and the purport gives a specific perception. Doesn't mean that they are all partial. They are all complete in itself, but they are also one gives something, one gives something. So it's all assorted storehouse of nectar. Storehouse of nectarine sweets. So if you are doing deep study, Prabhu, yes, please. If it is running reading, then not to worry.
And also one more thing, Prabhu. Of course, devotees study Bhagavatam. Do they have to also study the Satsandarbha of Jiva Goswami to understand the crabs, the essence of Bhagavatam? What Srila Jiva Goswami explained.
That's not really, to my thing only I can tell you, Prabhu, that's not really needed in the beginning stages at least until we get a hold on Srimad Bhagavatam. There will be, as I said earlier, there will be some places where you have to park it. And you have to park it either way. Even if you go to Satsandarbha, you will have to park it. It's not that just when you go to reading Satsandarbha, everything will become completely clear with no misgivings or doubts or anything whatsoever. No. It is bound to be there, but we continue on. Hope that helps, Prabhu.
Thank you very much, Prabhuji.
Very, very nice questions, Prabhu. Thank you. Any other questions?
Hare Krishna Prabhu, one
Yes,
question. Thank you, Prabhuji. Dandavat Pranam. Just a very practical question, Prabhu. These days, it's very easy to read the books online. Are there any particular pro and cons that we should consider, that whether it should be read online or should be read through books?
Personally, I would say go for books. Especially we are from a different generation. The current generation people are too much into the phones and laptops and all that. Even now we are doing the online discussion through laptop, but it's only yavadarkaha, right? As much as needed only we have to use, because what happens to all these electronic gadgets and all, they just come in like a needle, out like a plow, you know. So one of the important challenges that we all face is that we lost our handwriting, because we don't write at all. We just keep typing. And writing is a very important aspect, you know, of our devotional service, studying Srila Prabhupada's books. So we have to do that, and it's always good.
Hare Krishna Prabhu, you are muted, Prabhu. We're not able to hear you.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna Prabhu.
Yes, Prabhu. Sorry, I am completely in dark, so you will not be able to see me even if I switch on the video. But the power went off here, so I'm just connected using my hotspot. So I think Rahul Prabhu asked this question, right? About what is that they call it? Somebody told us, you know, it's the one is the Pustak Bhagavata and another is the Yantra Bhagavata. I like the term, you know, for Yantra Bhagavata. See, it is wherever it is needed only we should use it, Prabhu. To be honest with you and frank with you, the problem is that, you know, in the mobile screen or in the laptop screen, it just goes away from the screen, right? You don't feel a tangible touch of the scriptures when you study in the laptop and all the electronic media mechanism. Whereas when you read it in the book, no, the tangible touch is there. With the hand you can touch, and when you write, you have the touch. So all these things help us really to retain in the memory. It's a very obvious fact that when we had this books and notebooks for writing and all, we remembered a lot more, as against when we have this digital media like the social media or this electronic media, etc. So you know, it is important for us to know this difference. So as much as possible, use them only for these kind of things. When you are going in the bus or somewhere where you cannot sit and read with in the book, maybe if it is shaking too much, then you can have the electronic media. Or if you are going in the flight and all, it may be a little bit more smoother. So you can have a book, notebook and all that. So it's on case-to-case basis we can apply, Prabhu, but primarily keep to it that you know, it is am I audible? Primarily,
yes, yes, Prabhu.
Keep to it is that, you know, the book is more important. Electronic media, we can use it as a alternate option. See, for books, a lot of advantages are there. It doesn't need a battery power supply. It doesn't lose charge. And you can carry it anywhere. And in the flight also, once you sit in, you can read from the beginning to the end of the flight. There won't be any break because they will not ask you to close the book. But if you have the phone or laptop on, they will ask you to close it. So that tradition.
Thank you very much. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Well, I've been with the computers all my 24 hours. I'm 24/7. I'm with computers, so I know the you know, the challenges that in the age where we used to have the books with us and now how it is so different. You cannot ask. It's very difficult to make the children or elders study books, the study from the book and or memorize from the book these days. I mean to say, from electronic media, if you are studying, it's very difficult to get one verse out of them because we don't read the verse or the thing to by heart. You see, anyway, it is all there, so why should I by heart? And that doesn't work. When I'm dying, I will not have the access to all these things. So it has to be retained in our heart. So, that's
Yes, and one particular thing that I found useful with the books is that you can highlight, you can bookmark. Yes.
Yeah. I mean, whatever you do in the book these days in your iPad, you can highlight and save it. Those options are there, like PDF. So you have the options to highlight and all, but tangible is tangible always. The books are tangible. Books and notebooks. Primarily, one is book, but we have to also write down notebooks in the notebook. It's also there. So thank you, Prabhu. Any other questions? Yes. I think somebody came, Mehrotra Prabhu. Looks like you unmuted.
Thank you very much, Prabhu.
Yes, thank you, Rahul Prabhu. Any other questions?
Hare Krishna. I think questions are done, Prabhu. So
yes, Prabhu.
So thank you very much, Prabhu.
Thank you, Prabhu. I think we covered at a high level, at a bird's eye view level of the method part of it also. Now,
yes.
Grinatascha swacheshtitam kalena na atidirgena bhagavan vishate hrudi. So if you are hearing continuously and taking the matter very seriously, study always swacheshtitam by your own endeavor. It's very important. Swacheshtitam, he says, by your own endeavor. Seriously, take it seriously by your own endeavor. So when we put in our own endeavor, then Krishna will arrange the needful for us being pleased with our attempts. Like how he was pleased when Narmani's attempts in that lonely place. And then he bestowed upon him the transcendental benediction, the highest benediction of Bhakti. Thank you, Madhusavita Prabhu and Anandaram Prabhu. It's really amazing. I appreciate all the hard work that you had put into have this quick little 3. One session became 3 sessions.
So actually, thank you very much, Prabhu, for taking taking so much precious time and giving us valuable wisdom. Actually, we are now eager to hear a little more. So you are more than welcome to be a part of our group anytime you feel like, Prabhu. This is your own group.
I mean, I feel I really love the way the questions are asked because it's very rare to find a serious group of devotees, like-minded devotees who come together only for the purpose of glorifying Bhagavatam and purifying our hearts. That's the only reason for us to come to this path. What else we need? I really appreciate it, Prabhu. So nice of you. So wonderful.
So our objective has always been I mean, ours is a Srila Prabhupada's book reading group only. So Bhagavad Gita and Bhagavatam both. So we have kept it in a discussion format only, like not a congregation in that sense, but a group academy sort of.
Yeah, that is something where I would love to join. May not be every day, but once in a week or twice a week or something like that. If it is 9 to 10 and if the link is the same, then you don't have to invite me. I'll just join in, just like and hear the discussion and take some mercy. I will do that. The only problem is if I come, you people, you can ask questions, but I don't want to disturb the flow of your discussions.
Not a problem, Prabhu. You are most welcome to join anytime you feel like, and this is your own group. And you can simply come and start speaking also. So you're most welcome to that. We'll be more than happy to hear from you.
So amazing group, really, this is, and all glories to all of you to have come together. And without Krishna's sanction, as that quote we saw that we cannot touch Bhagavatam. Similarly, without Krishna's sanction, this group would not have been formed. He has watched each one of us from our hearts as Paramatma. And he arranged that, okay, this person should be in this group. And with all the hard work that you are all doing, such a nice thing that we virtual seva that you are doing, simply amazing, simply amazing.
Thank you very
much. Thank you, Prabhu. I really appreciate all the hard work that you are putting in, and I pray and wish that you keep continuing on whatever the thing may be, because 9 to 10 in India, it's all pretty much like winding down time. So it's easy to take this call from home. So appreciate it very much, Prabhu Mataji, for all the dedication you're doing. Thank you so much. And I will stop here. I will take your leave. Thank you so much. Hare Krishna. Vanchakalpatarabhyasya kripasindhubhasya patidanam pavanebhyo vaishnavabhyo namo namaha. Ananta Koti Vaishnava ki Jai, Srila Prabhupada ki Jai, Srila Gurudev ki Jai. Gaur Pramananda. Thank you.
All
Hare
Thank you, Prabhuji. Dandavat pranam.
Thank you,
Hare
Prabhu.
Krishna.
Hare
Thank you,
Krishna.
Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you so much. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna Prabhu, Dandavat Pranam.
Hare
Savadhutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Sri Radha Krishna Padan Sagana Lalita Sri Visakhantam Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Preshaya Bhutale Srimati